I want to go through the Unit 6 essay instructions and give you some tips on how to do well on the essay. Of course, reading the instructions in their entirety is a must. If you do that, and if you pay attention to what you're reading, and you deliver what is being requested, then you will almost certainly get a high grade, provided you are specific and write in complete sentences. But let's be a little bit more specific about what all that means. Now, how powerful is a state? How powerful should it be? These questions have been debated since the Revolution. Under the Articles of Confederation, we saw states with significantly high power than the national government. There was an attempt at more balance in the Constitution. Yet the debate over the power of each level of government continued to be debated, and this debate formed some of the reasoning behind the Bill of Rights, the formation of the two political parties, and formed the basis of many of our conflicts in U.S. history. In the Federalist era, that is the 1790s, we saw James Madison and Thomas Jefferson write the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions, respectively, in reaction to the Alien and Sedition Acts. Their work outlined their beliefs of where national law overreached and states should be able to counter that law. And in the age of Jackson, we see the issue arise again in relation to the tariffs. But one of the things you're going to want to do in this assignment is talk about the differing historical context of each of these controversies, because they arose out of different historical contexts, and there were different concerns on the minds of the politicians who raised them. And so you do want to focus on context, as you'll see as we go over what you should do in the essay, and that's laid out right here. First, you need to do what is said here and follow these instructions to a T. This is always the rule for essays. Do not give me anything I'm not asking for, but don't fail to give me everything I am asking for. So you write an introduction outlining the basic argument of state powers versus national powers. You may want to turn to the Constitution itself to find material. So, by looking at the Constitution, what did the Founding Fathers think should be the relative powers of the state and the federal government? Now, this is just a paragraph of 6 to 7 sentences. So you can be as specific as you can in one paragraph, and you should, but remember that you can only write 6 or 7 sentences on this issue. Don't try to talk about anything else. Don't do anything else but answer this question in that first paragraph. And please, 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 do not repeat the question. I know what the question is, so don't put this sentence in the answer. Second, write a brief summary of why each document was written. What is the historical context of the documents? So you've got to explain what triggered Jefferson and Madison to write these two documents, the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions. And you'll probably want to write a paragraph for each document. So one paragraph is on the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions, and one paragraph is on the South Carolina exposition and protest. Write a paragraph of what the two documents have in common. What is the commonality between these two very different protests? They have to have something different about them because they are arising out of different times, and you're going to explain that. But at the same time, they should have some commonality, and you need to be able to tell the difference between those two things. Write a paragraph of what the difference in the two documents is. How does the South Carolina exposition and protest differ in its argument from the Kentucky resolution? Here you might want to take a look at the issue of motivation. What was motivating Jefferson and Madison, but particularly Jefferson, in the Kentucky resolutions? He wrote it. What was motivating Calhoun, the South Carolina senator, in the South Carolina exposition and protest? And that will help shape your understanding of what the difference in the two documents is. And again, the more specific you are, the better. Write a conclusion that answers whether or not a state should have the ability to nullify a national law in your view, and if so, under what circumstances. If not, why not? Now, here's where some students go wrong. If you argue that a state should have the ability to nullify a national law, you're going to have to give historical reasons for why you think so. I don't want to hear a student just say, well, I think everybody should have a right to nullify a national law, including a state, or something silly like that. The problem with arguing that a state should have the ability to nullify a national law, it seems to me, is that this has never been granted. This right to nullify a national law has never been allowed in practice. And so it's going to be hard for you to argue that and use historical evidence to back it up. But if you argue that a state should not have the ability to nullify a national law, you've got plenty of evidence in history as to why that's trouble if a state can nullify a federal law. There are many instances of states attempting to do this, and many instances of when disaster occurred at the time a state tried to do this. So, in my opinion, it's a lot easier to argue that a state should not have the ability to nullify national law. But if you want to argue that it should, you're going to have to give historical reasons for why you think so. And they're going to have to be accurate reasons, and they're going to have to be clear in both cases. So the rest of these instructions simply talk about formatting. And so I think that the discussion of formatting is self-evident. Let me know if you have any questions.